to, and I think Marlene mentioned it, is to really give you a way to share information back with someone that's going to be looking at that information on the other side. So if you have a fever or report other symptoms, you know, there is a clinician, Devin's team, the call center that's looking at that information and going to reach out, you know, or give you some instruction, you know, based on the information we're receiving. So there's a couple main goals of the program. We want to provide you with education and as much information as we can. The other part of that is we do want to capture any new or change in symptoms. And then the clinical monitoring piece of it is really important. So there's really 3 primary programs. I think right now when you enroll, you're going to be enrolled in the educational program, which is going to provide the education, but we're still going to ask you about your temperature and any other symptoms. So it's sort of it's almost an educational / clinical monitoring program. There's the call center at the other end of this looking at the data that you're putting in. And then the quarantine program would be if you know that you've been exposed to someone who has COVID-19, then you would be put on that program just for some tips and, again, educational information about, you know, how to just sort of manage if you're in that quarantine bucket where you don't know and you're waiting to really find out if it's that 14-day period is still what I believe the CDC is recommending. So, so I think you're going to get some good information. You've got it. I know you've probably heard it, but if you're like me, it's good and helpful to hear it more than once, you know. So we're going to share information. We have a direct, you know, line to the CDC, so we update our information frequently. And as you guys probably remember, in the beginning, it was don't wear a mask, do wear a mask, you know. It's 3 feet, it's 6 feet, you know, as far as the social distancing. So we update our information consistently to make sure that you have the latest. So that's really our different programs. So once you enroll, you're going to initially end up in the educational program, but a piece of that really is monitoring your any symptoms you may report. Any questions about that? I'm curious just to see if I think someone mentioned that it was helpful. So based on if you put in a fever of 100.5, we can see that on our side in the clinician portal, and so we will reach out just, you know, to check in and make sure you're doing okay. So, and if you were to report that you had a change or, you know, additional or new symptoms, we are going to reach out, and you don't have to answer our call, but we're definitely going to try to reach out to you.
That's fantastic, I have to say. That's great reassurance.
When I want to say, and I think we probably already mentioned this, this is more than just COVID. This is, you have more that you're dealing with, obviously, and so we recognize that. So I hope that you'll consider an additional support program. So not only to make sure that you're safe and, you know, you have the information you need about COVID, but just, I think our team is really good at support. We're all nurses. So you're going to get that support, not just about the COVID, but if there's other things that come up, we're here to listen and want to, you know, at least be somebody else on the other end of the line that can you know, be an ear for you to share your feelings and what you're going through and what you may be experiencing and any questions that come up. First of all, this is what we call the home screen. So you can take your temperature at any time. I think actually we had someone call in this morning. Devin was saying that wants to check their blood pressure too, which is fine with us. So we can right now we're just sort of preset to capture your temperature. But if there were a blood pressure tile there, then you'd see it. You see the temperature, and then there'd be your blood pressure there if we were doing that as well. And I think the patient just wanted to make sure they entered their blood pressure too, which is fine. So you have your temperature. You can take that inside of a health session. Basically what a health session means is that every day we're sending out one session where we'll get your temperature, We'll ask you a couple of questions, monitoring questions, symptom management questions, but mostly we're just going to push out some education to you about COVID and staying healthy, and some support questions and information. There is the health library, and when you click on the health library, it takes you to different sites, a lot about COVID, you know, some basic information. And again, this is actually directly from the CDC. And if you click on certain links, you can, you know, get the most updated information. So the health library is something that, you know, you can refer to kind of in between, again, if it's something that you felt like would be beneficial. But if we go back, and one of the things I like to tell people is whenever you get lost, if you get out there somewhere, just always go home. If you saw that in the right-hand corner, there was a home button, just go home and you'll always get back to this main screen. So it's going to be good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and your first name. That's all the information that is actually on the screen. So, and this orange screen is to really start your health session for the day. You will get notification on your phone. You'll get a little notification that'll pop up and say, you have a health session for today. So Enrique has a health session for today. So he'll go through it. We just used our demo site, and but on yours, it's going to be a TrialJectory. This is a question that we're going to ask you every day. How are you feeling today? And depending on how you answer that question, then we're going to filter and do what we call a little branching logic and get more information. So let's just say we feel fair today, Enrique. And so you click on next, and then we want to get a little bit more information from you, because once we call, then, you know, that'll help us, you know, as we're having that conversation with you. And let's say, yeah, I have a fever or a cough or wheezing, and those are all, again, the things that, so press on yes, Enrique, yeah, there you go. So, but whenever this information comes back into our system, we're seeing how you're answering the question. So it does give us information to help guide that conversation when we reach out to you. So we're going to give you what we call a call to action, and, you know, you might need to call your provider or your doctor, but also, you know, we're gonna reach out to you if there's something that is a positive or an alert for that question. We're going to have you check your temperature. We'll walk through that. And right now that's all self-reported. So you have a thermometer, you plug it in there. And you click on next. And then you'll get a little bit of instruction about, you know, what you should be concerned about. And click on the next button. And this is, again, just an example. You're not going to get the same thing every day. Let's do you're not more fatigued today. So just answer no. And next, we're glad you're not more fatigued. We want you to be healthy. You know, are you having problems trying to sleep? Probably. Most of us are. But yes. And then we have some, you know, a little bit of information to share with you. And again, this varies from day to day. So some of the questions will be the same and some will be different. Like you won't be asked about your sleep every day. We can click on next. And this is, I think, where we'll share that information. A lot of it's reinforcement, but this, again, is directly from the CDC. You know, stay home when you're sick, use at least 60% alcohol, you know, the importance of washing your hands, and, you know, avoid touching your eyes, you know, all the information. But I don't know, at times you just need to hear it, and we do update it because, as I mentioned earlier, this changes, you know, it was changing pretty regularly. Now I think maybe it's settled down a little bit. So we could click on next again. And this is, we focus a lot on stress, and because not only if you have COVID or there's the potential for it, which there is for all of us, that's one thing. We've all been isolated. That's another thing. And then on top of that, you guys are dealing with some other things that we know just have, you know, add a little bit more stress in your life. And so we realize that it's really important. So we will have some information just in general about managing stress. And I think just some things for you to think about and hopefully take your mind off of, you know, some of the other things you're dealing with, and try to reduce your stress. And that's really, so again, you'll have one of these sessions every day.